It's night and day.
Whenever you're ready.
Alright, now that we've had the time to go over all of her moves and how Veilfor works, we spent a little bit more time on that than with the other characters, but she has more connection with her moves to her game than Camelot, who we did just recently, where he'll use a various type of element enhanced into his sword, and then he'll attack with that element. And that was kind of it, other than the shield bash and one quick lunge, because he had less to work with as source material from his game, so that's why we spent with her more time with her, because they did much more attention to detail with every one of her moves. So now we can actually get into her story! Yay!
Sweet! Apparently there's a decent amount of story to be had.
Yeah, we're going to go into this big spoilers about Final Fantasy X now, so again, if you haven't played it yet, then you would probably should do yourself the favor of playing through that game before hearing us go into the details of all this story, because it is one of the best stories in all of gaming. It is such a great, fun ride to go through that story.
I'm looking forward to hearing this, because you're really amping me up for it. Or you have your effing mind blown, man.
Well, we're not going to give away every single outcome of every plot twist and everything like that, but we will cover Yuna, because that's what this is about.
Right.
Alright, so Yuna is a summoner from the island of Besaid. That's her
hometown.
Yeah, it's where she was raised. It's not where she was born, I don't believe. I believe she was born in Bazel. So their world is called Spira. And in their world, summoners are held in extremely high regard.
Okay. So it's a rarity to be a summoner.
It's not ultra rare. There's a few that wander, but it is an occupation that's held in extremely high regard. And that's for several reasons. One of which is called the sending. The way this works is, if a living being dies in the world of Spira, their body turns into pyreflies, which are these glowing things that we've seen in the background of the Besaid stage after the transition.
Right.
And the pyreflies, if there's no summoner, the pyreflies can kind of be dispersed and reconverge with malevolent, like, resentment towards the living or that sort of thing, and turn into monsters of that realm called fiends. So without a proper sending that a summoner performs, the pyreflies can basically turn into things that will try to harm other people or kill them.
Right.
So the summoner's role is very important as one who can perform this sending ritual and guide the pyreflies instead of that to this realm called the Far Plane.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that cutscene was fantastic.
Yeah.
With her, like, doing that ritual.
Yeah, you can see, like, all the grace.
Yeah, for sure.
And the solemnity that she brings to it, because it's, I mean, all the people are crying. It's just such a
really
sorrowful experience.
Yeah, it seems very, like, emotional. Like, she seems like she puts a lot of emotion into just her magic and her sorcery.
All of the town of Kilika, their loved ones had just perished. A lot of people had died in an attack by Sin. That's this giant creature that comes in and seems to attack cities arbitrarily in the world of Spira. And a lot of people had just died from that, so they asked her to perform the sending, and you saw that scene. So you see, like, how relevant, or how important it is, the summoner's role is in that world.
Right.
We'll keep getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, so this is the new stage they actually implemented, which isn't new for the first time. This is the final battle versus Shinryu stage.
Awesome.
So we have seen this one before. I have seen it too many times.
Oh, yeah, that is right.
Man, hard mode's Shinryu fight does not mess around.
Oh my god. Oh, that's awesome, though, that they finally let you fight here.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I mean, it looks awesome. The background is all...
Yeah, otherworldly, like, falling apart.
Yeah, the sky is falling.
I wonder if they implemented a stage transition in this.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that would be cool if you could see, like, Shinryu somehow in the background somewhere.
Well, we'll find out soon, because...
You're gonna boomerang this thing. One horn at a time. There we go.
Oh yeah, the impulse attack, you can hold it down to get the 6 charged up.
Oh,
or you can
okay.
just do it
just once.
once, yeah. Or like as long as you want to hold it, you can do that many.
Sweet.
So it's pretty versatile. The other reason that summoners are super highly regarded in Spirit is that they undertake, well, some of them undertake what's called the pilgrimage, and that's when they go from temple to temple. They make the pact with all of the Aeons in order to be able to summon them, in the hopes that if they complete the entire pilgrimage, which is, you know, it's a challenging scenario, but if they do complete the entire pilgrimage, they will fight Sin.
Oh,
And
okay.
summoners are the only people who can defeat Sin. In the event they do defeat Sin, they become what's referred to as the High Summoner.
Okay.
So, but in that event, they pay a heavy price.
No.
Be some goodness. Oh, I wonder if I can Yuna off Doom.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if you were gonna attempt that or not.
You can't do it in the Oh, let's see if there's a stage transition, I guess. We'll summon.
Lend us the strength to end this.
In a normal Final Fantasy game, you can't remove Doom with Yuna, so I was
Oh.
kind of thinking along those lines, but... Oh, well, it's changed colors. But
Yeah.
it didn't really change...
It's like sunshinier, I guess.
The background is all more like a purple space nebula instead of...
I guess we'll see after Bahamut leaves what is left.
Yeah.
But it seems like that's pretty much going to be it.
Oh, the new HP attack we got is called Great Whirl, and that's based off of... Oh, I got 2 for 1.
What the?
Yeah, it's got a cool AoE. And that's based off of a move she actually has in 10-2.
Ah.
So they did bring in some of her 10-2
Ah,
stuff, which is
interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting, especially given the timeline. Like, they can't exist simultaneously. Like, after 10, there are no more summon Aeons for her to summon. So it can't be after 10 if
Oh,
she's summoning her Aeons. Like, yeah, there's some major... The whole world has... The ramifications of what your party does in that game affects the whole world and this whole society of
What the
how
heck?
those people have lived their lives. We'll get into that a little bit later, but yeah, you've got these incredibly far-reaching changes that you bring in that game. Alright, so they pay a heavy price. When they complete the pilgrimage and they go to fight Sin, the summoner performs what is called the final summoning.
Okay.
The final summoning defeats Sin, but it costs the life of the summoner.
Oh, wow.
You don't understand this as the main player because you're playing from Tidus' perspective throughout the game.
Okay.
And it's a major plot revelation. It's like a big plot twist where he has not been aware of this entire time.
Oh.
He's been like, oh, we're on this trip and it's great and we're going to have fun. And then once he finds out the truth about the nature of her trip and that she's been going along this entire time fully resolved on this course of action that will kill her,
Right.
sacrifice herself in the name of saving Spira, then he's like, oh god, I've been acting like an idiot this entire time, like just like a complete moron, just putting my foot in my mouth left and right, because I was saying, oh, all this fun we'll have, and I'm going to show you my city when we get back, and all this stuff. Not understanding
That none of that is actually a
Yeah.
possibility.
exactly, there was no future in it for her.
Wow. That is awesome, though. That she knew from the very beginning that's what she was going to do.
Yes.
But
well,
so
not every summoner becomes a high summoner,
Okay.
but she wanted to.
okay.
Partially because her father was a high summoner before her.
Oh.
So Braska was the name of her father, and he was the last one to defeat Sin.
So does Sin randomly come back
Yeah, that's...
throughout? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's... You're picking up on this.
Yeah.
That's another problem with this whole concept of the pilgrimage and the final summoning, because when a high summoner defeats Sin, that summoner's life is sacrificed,
Right.
but Sin is not permanently gone.
Right.
It brings about what's referred to by the people of Spira as the calm. It's a period of time where Sin is gone, but Sin always returns.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's not necessarily like, oh, definitely do it because...
Yeah, so one person
sacrifice-
sacrifices
yeah.
themselves and then Sin is gone indefinitely. It's a matter of the people need peace, so they will do it for X amount of time. It could be like weeks, months, years, whatnot, but Sin will return.
Right.
And someone will have to sacrifice themselves again.
Right. And Yuna is even confronted about this. They bring it up, so it's pretty cool the way that it's done. I think somebody raises the question of, oh, well, but Sin always comes back, so why would you ever consider... And Yuna says, don't even say it. Don't say it's not worth it. Like,
wow.
It's definitely worth it. It's always worth it. Just people having the ability to sleep in their own beds without being in constant fear. Like,
right.
She has this whole speech about it.
Wow.
So she's completely set on her path. She's fully resolved to this course of action.
Huh.
So yeah, that's a major plot twist of that game. It's not the only major plot twist, and it's not the only big surprise revelation. So there are other hard-hitting things, some of which we won't cover because they're not unicentric. So you play the perspective of Tidus. He's thrown into this world, and he's not familiar with the world. He's from a place called Zanarkand, where he's a star athlete, like we talked about before.
Right.
And he's thrown into this kind of medieval society with sin and summoners and all this stuff he's never heard of before. So you're playing from the perspective of you're learning about it as he is.
Right,
Which is a really excellent way to do the story and introduce the player to the world as well.
For sure. And it also like builds that character, like builds the bond between you and the character because you and him are learning the exact same things at the exact same time. Right,
makes him very relatable.
Right, yeah.
All star athlete aside.
Well, speak for yourself. I mean, that makes me like the character of Yuna a lot more now. Like knowing that, like she has that kind of resolve and that kind of willpower. It's like she will sacrifice herself just because it's the right thing to do, and knowing that it will be temporary, but it's still. What is that?
That's the great whirl I made.
Oh.
It stays on the battlefield unless somebody hits it.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's kind of like a trap.
Interesting. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, come get me. Oh.
That's not really what I wanted.
So yeah, that's one of the reasons I really, really like her character, because how driven she is to, to make that ultimate sacrifice for all the people of her world.
Yeah, it's not only like she's driven to final or complete a task, but she's driven to complete a task that will indefinitely be the end of her life.
Right.
But it means that much to everyone else that it's not even a question of whether she should do it or not.
Yeah, she's so altruistic. So she goes on the pilgrimage from the beginning, and Tidus becomes what's called a guardian, which are the other party members. Guardians, they guard summoners, and they protect them as they take the pilgrimage. So any monsters that they encounter on the way, any fiends, then the guardians help her deal with that.
Okay.
I mean, they're pretty capable on their own.
Yeah, right. I mean, based on her attacks, it seems like she has some pretty good fighting ability. But I guess the guardians are basically there to take away a lot of the stress of fighting throughout the whole entire pilgrimage. Because do they have to fight every summon in order to gain the ability to summon them? Actually,
in order to obtain the bond with the Aeon, at each given temple, the summoner has to undergo what's called the Cloister of Trials. So there's a mental test before she gets to the Chamber of the Aeon. The Chamber of the Faith, sorry.
Okay.
And then once that test has been passed, the summoner enters the Chamber of the Faith and makes a pact with the Faith. And they never actually show what's entailed in that.
Oh.
But they show Yuna exiting the Chamber of the Faith from some of these temples, and it's always like really trying on her. Like she's coming out, the door opens and she like slumps to the ground. So whatever the process is, it's difficult.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. So just kind of keep that behind the scenes so you don't know exactly what that entails.
Yeah.
You just see her reaction before and after.
Right. What the summoner herself goes through is still a mystery.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, another aspect of Yuna's character is she is famous for, I think she's the only Final Fantasy character, she has heterochromia. So each of her eyes are different color.
Right.
She has a blue one and a green one. The reason for that is because she's half Al Bhed. Al Bhed is another race of humans in that game.
Huh.
It's very important to the plot because the Al Bhed are seen as heathens from the religion, the Yevon religion, which is what she is part of as a summoner.
Right.
The summoner pilgrimage and everything about that is following the teachings of Yevon. They're the ones who came up with the methodology of how to live a good life and how to defeat sin and do the pilgrimage in the first place. So her Al Bhed heritage is in conflict with that.
So she's aware of that.
Oh yeah, she's aware of it. They don't advertise it; they keep it a secret.
Right,
but it does come into play during the course of the game because the Al Bhed themselves, they go against the teachings of Yevon. They try to defeat sin in their own way, not following the pilgrimage. They use machinery. In that game, it's called Machina, and they speak a different language, which you can learn over the course of the game.
Oh, cool.
It's basically it's not a super complicated whole other language. It's a substitution cipher.
Oh.
So if it's in the English version, it just uses different letters are swapped out in the English alphabet.
Right.
And if it's the Japanese version, then katakana is swapped out for hiragana. So either way, it's a substitution cipher, but it is still cool that they added it in. And the voice acting is done in the different language. So you can't understand them. If you collect enough of these items throughout the game, then you can see it translated.
Oh, sweet. That is awesome.
Yeah, so it's a pretty cool element to the game. But the Al Bhed try to defeat sin in a different way with Machina and all that. So it plays into the story, definitely.
I'm guessing it doesn't work out well. But that's really cool in terms of Yuna's story. So she knows that, and I guess other people in her party know that. Like the Guardians.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want other people to know that, which makes sense.
Not all of the Guardians know, because it's very interesting. Some of the Guardians are super devoted to Yevon. So they try to keep it from them because if they find out, there's going to be even more inner conflict.
Right. It's like a civil war, internal, a little civil war happening in there.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, the giant crazy monster is called Sin, so you can see the religious allegory immediately.
For sure,
like the Yevon people basically say, oh, if you repent, eventually sin will be permanently gone forever. And then the Al Bhed don't believe that. They want to take him out their own way. And by the end of the game, you do complete the pilgrimage.
Okay.
But near the end of the pilgrimage, Yuna is told the way the final summoning works is not only does the summoner die, but one of the Guardians would have to be sacrificed as well.
Oh, wow.
And that's how an Aeon is basically created from one of the Guardians. A Faith is created from one of the Guardians, and then that allows them to summon that Guardian Faith as an Aeon form. But doing so would end the Guardian's life as they know it.
Oh, man.
So at that point, and only then, Yuna says, okay, absolutely not. There is no way.
Wow.
For the people of Spira, I would 100% die myself. But at this point, no.
Right.
So
to drag someone else down with her.
Yeah.
Like she won't do that.
Exactly.
Oh, that is awesome.
So, yeah, her character is, like, she's so stalwart about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So they try to seek a different way to defeat sin and try to bring an end to the suffering of the people of Spira. They do discover like corruption within the religion of Yevon as they go along the way.
Right.
All throughout, like even at the highest levels of
Right.
the religion, they find corruption. Even though they teach that you can't use machinery, you can't use machina, they find like super advanced technology within certain facilities of Yevon. That one character, Seymour, who's the priest of Yevon who tried to marry Yuna.
Right. Okay.
That person is a priest of Yevon as well.
Right. He's like higher in the religion of Yevon, and he is corrupt in like using machinery and whatnot.
Yeah.
Oh.
The religion of Yevon ends up branding them heretics at a certain point because they understand that Yuna and her party has learned the truth about Yevon and certain things that they should. So
they just decided
they're branded heretics.
Okay. And then is that basically like exiling, or is that like people try to actually murder you?
Yeah, people try to attack you
okay.
and stop you on your way and that sort of thing. Eventually, the party faces sin in their own way and tries to defeat sin and try to find a way to destroy sin forever.
Oh, nice.
You know, they fight Sin, and it's some parts of the ending are bittersweet, but they do manage to actually defeat Sin. In defeating Sin, Yuna has to, all of the Aeons that she's formed bonds with along the way, they are ultimately sacrificed.
Oh, wow.
So they ask to be sacrificed as well. So it's not like Yuna's like, no, I will never sacrifice my one friend. I will sacrifice my 7 other friends, though. It's not like a hypocritical thing. Like, and you can see it, like the expression in her face as she has to do it, that it's
like it hurts her to do so, but like it has to be done, kind of thing.
Right.
And it's also like they volunteer that, so I guess it's not nearly as bad.
Right.
Huh. So those Aeons that she summons, they're not like gods or anything like that.
No, they're just creatures with a high amount of power.
Okay.
And it's really cool how summoning is actually implemented in that game, because in the first Final Fantasy games, summoning monsters was just like a spell. Like, it was a more powerful version of like a Black Mage spell.
Right.
Like, you could do Fire spell as the Black Mage or Ifrit as the Summoner.
Yeah.
And it would cost more mana, and it would a more powerful version of the same thing. But in some of the games, they implemented summoning in a more creative way. And in Final Fantasy X, because a summoner was one of the major characters, the main characters of the game, they completely put a lot of attention to detail in summoning. So in that game, when you summon, your party leaves and you control just the summon monster.
Oh, cool.
And you can upgrade the summon monster similar to the weapons.
Oh,
where
interesting.
you can give them new abilities to learn and things like that by using items.
So they actively become a part of the team, and then you can manipulate like their stats to like almost, I guess, kind of based on your playstyle with that summon, with that Aeon or whatnot.
Yeah. They replace the party, basically, so it's not like you get them with the party at the same time, but they have their own special attacks. Like, Baleful has the Sonic Wings attack, and they have their own overdrives, which are like the limit breaks in that game, the super moves. So,
the special attacks.
So yeah, just like the party, like every party member has their own overdrives, the summons do also. So if they stay in the battle long enough, then they can use their special attacks.
Right.
And like, or you can do what's called a grand summon with Yuna, which is you bring them in with their overdrive already fully charged, and you can just unleash the super powerful attack right
immediately,
away.
Yeah. Huh.
So yeah, each Aeon has their own set unique attacks, and then they can also learn any ability in the game if you feed them the right materials. So.
Right, so the rarer material gets you better attacks and whatnot.
Yeah, similar to the weapons.
Right.
So because of the revelations discovered by Yuna and her group of guardians, at the end of Final Fantasy X, like the Yevon religion is basically abolished.
Oh wow!
Because it comes out that they were, manipulating people and just
everything.
spreading misinformation, and that some of the foundations of the religion were false and all of this sort of thing. Some of the highest-ranking members of the religion were killed in the course of the game.
Oh, okay.
So Yuna and her guardians do manage to save Spira and defeat Sin. Again, bittersweet ending. Definitely not everyone makes it out okay in the end. So, and the world of Spira is forever changed. And it's one of the best stories in all of gaming. It sounds so amazing.
It sounds amazing based on what I've heard so far. Especially the character dynamic, I think, with like Yuna, Tidus, and the whole squad.
Yeah, the characters are great. Yeah, the interactions are really good. Yeah, that game, really well received. It's known for having an excellent story. And then the controversy happens. Because for the first time, Square decided to make a sequel. So all of these games, even though we're talking about Final Fantasy X, there aren't sequels. There have been no actual direct sequels. So 10 has nothing to do with 9, which has nothing to do with 8, which has nothing to do with 7.
Right, yeah.
Later, actually, the creators like retconned in some really weird loose connection between 10 and 7, but like it makes zero sense, and it's plot hole city. After the success of Final Fantasy X, the controversy started, and the controversy is Final Fantasy X-2.
Right.
Now, some people really like the game, and some people hate it with the burning passion of 1,000 suns. Like, They took the plot and everything about the game in such a strange and different direction. It seems like it was done by completely different people. It's such a different tone from the prior game, it would blow your mind. Like,
Oh, wow.
a lot of the same characters are in it, but they're not in the same capacity because there is no such thing as summoning. So there's no summoner guardian kind of party dynamic. Most of the party that joined you in that game isn't in your party in the sequel. So Yuna is in the sequel, and the main character of the sequel. Riku, who was a guardian in Final Fantasy X, also joins you. She's the only guardian to return to the main party.
Oh, wow. And
she is fully Al-Bhed. The Al-Bhed relationship has, it's no longer controversial in 10-2 because Yevon fell.
Oh, okay. Right.
And then they're joined by another person named Pain, who's new to the team.
Huh.
And you don't have the full party that you had. Like, there were 7 members in
10?
In 10, yeah.
There's 3 and 2?
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they really cut the squad down for sure.
The style of storytelling is so different. 10 is one linear kind of path. And that's partially why the story is so solid. It's not open world, it's not go at your own pace, like go wherever you want. It's concise and it's one thing flows into the next. The story in 10-2 is done in mission-based gameplay, where you're on an airship and you can go to whatever location, not any that you want, but you select from a list of options, and then you can choose pretty much what you want, and you can skip a lot of stuff. So it isn't necessary to go through everything, so you can miss out parts of the story, and there are different actual endings to the game. So in certain respects, it's very interesting the way they did it, but the story isn't as clean by far. And the style of the game, again, it's very different from 10, and there are reasons for that. It's not like they just do this absolutely for no reason and it's pointless.
Okay.
Because the world of Spirit had changed a huge amount because of Yuna and the group's action.
Right.
In the first game.
Right.
So now the world is basically reorganized. Its main religious foundation has fallen.
Right. So it's basically trying to get back into a state of, equilibrium.
Right, to see where people stand.
Right.
So Yevon has fallen, and there are 2 new groups that are emerging. One is called New Yevon, where they're trying to kind of take the good philosophies of Yevon and move forward with that. And the other one is called the Youth League, which is a strange name, but they're based off of Crusaders. Crusaders were warrior knights who fought against sin in the world of 10. They were sanctioned by Yevon.
Okay.
Whereas the Al-Bhed fought against sin, but they were not. So yeah, in the world of 10-2, they're getting reorganized and getting back on their feet, and new organizations are emerging. But the tone is so different because, well, you've seen how Yuna is in 10, and she's very respectful and reserved, and she wears traditional kimono and that sort of character.
Right.
And you saw the summoning and all that. She's all graceful, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you get to 10-2, and this is what they do to her.
What?
And she looks like this.
That's Yuna?
That's Yuna.
What the heck?
Yep, they put her in hot pants, booty shorts.
Those are definitely booty shorts.
Yep, they put her in that, and they give her some guns.
What?
Yeah.
That's the same game.
It's not the same game.
But like,
it's
that's
absolutely not the same game.
So that's 10 and 10-2. So they branded it as the same thing.
It is the sequel.
Yeah.
They said it's the same character.
Yeah.
And I mean, she has this half skirt flowy thing over here, so that looks like
it's not taking care of a lot there. I gotta say. Wow. Yeah. She definitely changed up a lot.
A little tiny bit of a change. Yeah.
I think she's traded her staff for some bullets. It's pretty much the only difference there.
Right. I mean, again, there are reasons for the character redesign that make sense in the world, because she can't summon. There's nothing for her to summon. She needs a new job.
I guess so, yeah.
The Yevon religion has fallen. Everything that she had dedicated her life to, all those teachings she learned were lies.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of them were lies. And so there's, a certain amount of rebelling against that.
Right,
and, Machina is okay to use, so she goes to the guns that used to be, non-existent, off-limit kind of...
That was heresy kind of action, yeah.
Yeah. And there's another reason for it, which is after the events of 10, Yuna is pretty famous worldwide. So in between 10 and 10-2, they have this brief teaser CG scene called Eternal Calm.
Okay.
Where Riku comes and meets Yuna and says, "Oh, I found this sphere." Spheres are kind of like a form of technology in their world where they can be used for a lot of things. Like that's how they broadcast TV shows and things like that.
Okay.
And that's also the items that give you the ability to enhance your attributes and level up in that game, because you don't gain levels traditionally.
Right.
So anyway, they found a sphere, an ancient sphere with a recording on it of someone who looks like Tidus. So Yuna's like, "Oh God, we got to go find him and see what we can do."
Right.
But at that point, Yuna is famous because of her actions at the end of Final Fantasy X.
Right.
So Riku's like, "Oh, I got these new clothes for you so that we can go hunting for spheres incognito and you won't be recognized." Even though, you know, if you play the actual game, people recognize Yuna.
Oh, well.
Like, you're pretty famous. So that, I mean, it's an excuse.
I guess. It's,
So-
I mean, it's at least it didn't go completely unexplained or whatever, but still doesn't mean it's a great explanation.
Yeah, the incognito thing, I mean, maybe at the time they did the Eternal Calm thing, they planned on using it more in the story, but yeah. But the concept of being more of a free spirit and less of a person who is tied to full tradition like she was forever makes sense. Rebelling against the religion that she had found out was false or had lied to her.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the rebellious spirit, I could definitely see where they would want, like, why they would want to take it that direction. I guess it's just such a departure that it really is a little jarring.
Yeah,
but,
and the game is that way too. The storytelling in 10 is all serious, and you're on this pilgrimage, and it's a very serious game.
I can imagine, yeah.
And then in 10-2, it's like the whole game is like a super light tone. Like the whole concept is you become what's called a sphere hunter, where a lot of people in Sphere, after Yevon has fallen, have been like, "Oh, we got to go and find these ancient spheres, as many of them as we can, to try and preserve them or learn as much as we can." Because now, you know, it's open season on that sort of thing now, as opposed to being banned or anything like that.
So people are taking this time to, like, just go find out what is actually happening in the world, because I guess before that religion kind of tried
cemented itself.
Yeah, keep that information away from the populace and whatnot. So there's a lot of sphere hunters now, basically.
The different groups are all after spheres. Some of them, you know, for their own purposes.
Right. Yeah.
That sort of thing.
And so Yuna and the crew are basically just going around, and that's a way of you finding out what happened, like, in the past world, is you going through and collecting all the spheres and whatnot.
Right.
That makes sense.
So that becomes a new source of power, basically. So it's kind of like an arms race, but it's more like knowledge. But in any case...
Well, knowledge is power.
Braggle! You join Riku, and she has this group of sphere hunters, and Yuna becomes a sphere hunter too. And you go around, and it's all about girl power and tee-hee, and we completed a mission, yay! And they give each other fives, and like there are literally scenes where they're just like, yay, alright! And it's like, what the hell am I playing?
Yeah.
And there are serious elements that develop in the game later, but like throughout most of the game, it's such a drastic tonal shift from what you played in Final Fantasy X, and that's why there's a huge backlash against 10-2, where some people are good with it. Like I said, there is a serious story that develops later, and some people are really fond of that story, but because of how drastically different it is from 10, a lot of people really, really didn't like it. So it's pretty controversial, because a lot of people fall on one side or the other. There's not as many middle grounders for this. Yeah, because people felt so strongly about 10. Another thing that's interesting about it, though, is the gameplay is phenomenal. Like,
oh, really?
Even though the story is definitely told in a much more lighthearted manner throughout most of the game, the gameplay itself is amazing. It's probably the best implementation of the ATB system that they've ever done.
Wow.
Like the active time, because you get to still control your full party, but it's fast-paced. Like in the later games, they made it fast-paced, like Final Fantasy 13 and Final Fantasy 15, but you don't get to control your allies. You just control one party member.
Right.
the allies are running some sort of AI script or whatever.
Right.
In Final Fantasy 12, you can influence it. In Final Fantasy 13, you can influence a little bit less. In Final Fantasy 15, you can't influence it at all.
Wow.
So for the traditionalists who like to control the whole party and like the ATB system from the first, or from 4 through 9, like those were seen as one of the best battle systems ever. This has probably the best implementation of it of any game.
Wow.
So the gameplay is extremely fun.
Oh,
you can
that's
change
fantastic.
job classes on the fly, which it's called dress spheres. So they're changing their outfits into
Right.
different dresses,
Yeah.
but it changes their jobs. So like you can change in the middle of the fights and things like that, and it creates a really fun element of strategy.
Wow.
So it's such an interesting contrast.
Yeah, there's like so much polarity in just 10 versus 10-2 in terms of like gameplay, in terms of storyline, in terms of just everything. It's like 10-2 is barely a sequel to 10, but at the same time, it seems like they're barely linked and also very tight in like very small, finite scenarios.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it is a direct continuation of the story, but it's told so differently
Right.
that you really get the feel that it isn't necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, Final Fantasy does traditionally change up the battles
Right,
for
yeah.
each game and all that, but
And even the stories and everything like that change
yeah. So
game to game. But as a direct sequel, like this, yeah, it just seems like a totally different thing.
that's why some people for this game were kind of
Oh.
on the side of, they should definitely implement her as Gunner Yuna with the 2 pistols versus, no, they should definitely stick with the Summoner Yuna because that's how she was traditionally, and the Gunner Yuna isn't as true to her character and that sort of thing. And some people wanted to do both to show.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting to see, I think we were hinting at before, like the Great Whirl is in this game as an
Yeah.
ability, but it can't be like some of the other characters, Cloud and Lightning specifically. It's obvious that time has passed in their games because you see them in the outfits from what happened later in their stories.
Right.
But in this game, if Yuna did that, then she couldn't summon. So it seems like it's kind of a contradiction that she has that Great Whirl attack from 10-2.
Maybe that was, yeah, that seems like it was just to appease people that are going for both or people that were maybe fans of that one game.
Maybe.
But I don't know, like, because then you're not really doing a lot, but there's just so much in that first game to pull from with like all the summons and just her character in general, everything like that.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be unfortunate to kind of throw that away and put the 10-2 spin on it, but maybe, yeah.
Well, to be fair, in 10-2, there's more to draw from because you have like 20 job classes that you could switch to, so there's more of a moveset there
guess
than
so.
with the.
I mean, I'm sure that was a tough call either way to make for implementing on a game like this, because you can really make it go either way. Like, you could make her be a summoner like she is now, or you could give her guns and just have her play like an assassin or still a marksman even. Or you could have her be like Onion Knight and kind of like switch between classes or whatnot.
Yeah. So the decision was basically made in the first sequel to Dissidia. Dissidia Duodism. That's where Yuna was first implemented, the ones where the summons were half shown.
Right.
And in that, the main character designer, Tetsuya Nomura, said he wanted to keep her as the summoner Yuna because that was her most iconic form that most people were familiar with.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, go with the character from the original as opposed to the sequel. I mean, in some cases, they're kind of the same character, but I guess in this case, it's like worlds different.
So in 10-2, she goes on the sphere hunting thing to try and track down what's going on with Petitus, and then you can support either the Youth League or New Yevon. The concept is you're supposed to support one and then replay the game a second time to get the full clear. Although there is this one super crazy path where you can try and do 100% it in one run.
Oh, wow.
But you have to do it extremely perfectly. Like you miss one conversation with one guy and it falls apart.
Oh, wow.
It's really difficult to do. Generally, the most common way is to just do 2 playthroughs and to see each side that way. And then at the end, you find that it was never Tidus that was seen in this sphere.
Oh.
It was The person they saw in the sphere who looked like Tidus is actually Shuyin. He's an unsent from Zanarkand 1,000 years ago during the Machina War, which was a crazy war between Bavel, which is currently the capital of Yevon, and then Zanarkand, which was this home to a ton of summoners and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, this guy Shuyin is an unsent. What an unsent is, and how that works is, remember how I told you that fireflies from the dead can coalesce and form fiends with enough resentment, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Well, an unsent is when a dead person with a strong enough will or a responsibility they still have yet to fulfill, that sort of thing, has his or her fireflies remain in human form after death, so they stay basically looking exactly like they looked before.
Okay.
It's called an unsent because the fireflies were never sent to the fire plane with the summoner performing the send.
Right, yeah, makes sense.
So Shuyin and his lover Len, they wanted to put an end to the war because lots of people were dying in this crazy Machina war. And they tried to use an incredibly powerful weapon, a machine, a machina, if you will, called Vagnagun, to end the war. But they were killed before he could actually use it. He wanted to use it, she wanted to talk him out of it, but then they got gunned down like right before he could actually activate it.
Okay. That seems tragic.
Yeah, it's pretty tragic. That's part of what makes this guy drives him, basically.
Yeah, makes sense.
So his spirit had incredibly strong resentment because of this tragedy, and it couldn't go to the far plane, but he didn't turn into a fiend, and he didn't become a traditional unsent. It's not really explained why his thing was so special and unique, but instead of either of these things, his spirit kind of remains trapped as a spirit form, just feeling resentment for about 1,000 years until near present time, when a squad of crusaders comes in, and they're investigating the cave where he died, and his spirit then possesses one of these guys, and these particular crusaders are important people, Nuj, Gipal, and they become the leaders of the factions in Final Fantasy X-2.
Oh.
The Youth League and New Yevon and the Machine faction, I think it's called. So when they are investigating as crusaders before their big breaks or whatever that led them into future fame and leadership, they're investigating, and Shuyin's spirit possesses one of these guys. It's never explained why Shuyin's unsent form has all these powers and different properties than all the other Firefly beings in all of Spirit. This is kind of like a because plot MacGuffin.
Just because, yeah.
So it's kind of, I mean, you could say maybe it's because of his extreme resentment of the tragedy of his death, but you would think over all of the course of all of human history that other people at some point would have died with extreme resentment or emotion in their hearts.
Right,
so
exactly.
That's probably not it. It just doesn't really make sense. Maybe the writers are actually saying that Shuyin is the absolute most passionate person who has ever lived in the history of all mankind, and that's why his Fireflies had this extreme special case
ability,
going on.
Yeah. Where it seems highly unlikely.
Yeah. Regardless, that's the plot. So Shuyin possesses this guy, and his spirit then exits, like hitching a ride on this guy.
Oh, okay.
And he's brought back into modern times, and he stays possessing this guy, I guess presumably through the end of Final Fantasy X and into X-2. So while he's possessing this faction leader guy, he sees that the conflict of the people of Spira is escalating towards war. After Yuna has brought peace and what's called the eternal calm, because there's no sins not coming back anymore, so it's not just the calm, it's the eternal calm.
Right.
So once she's accomplished that, the people of Spira are split into these factions, and like we were saying before, they start arguing and trying to decide, okay, what's the best way to move forward as a people, or how do the people of Spira move forward? And just like normal reality, they all start arguing about what's the best way, and then the tensions escalate, and then it starts moving towards war. And Shuyin observes this in his possessing form of this guy.
Right.
And it's like, oh god, people are just, all they do is have war and conflict, and it's hopeless, just like before. He decides, okay, we have to put a stop to this, there can be no more war. And then he goes right back to his original plan of, I've got to use Vegnagun because it's the most powerful weapon, it's capable of wiping out everyone. I'm going to use that to end all wars. I'm going to end all war by ending all life. There is a slight flaw in his logic.
Right. I mean, it makes sense. If no one exists, then there will never be war. And what's the point of people existing?
Right. What is the point of stopping war?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Who are you protecting?
By killing everyone in the world. So yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Totally perfect plan. No
Yeah.
flaws in the logic whatsoever.
Right. Yeah. He's thought this through for at least 1,000 years. So, is there any specific reason why Shuyin looks like Tidus?
No, the weird part is they never explain it. They never fully explain why he looks like Tidus. There's an old wise man historian in the game, an NPC named Machin, and he implies that it's more than just a coincidence. But it's never explicitly stated. Nowhere in the game, to my knowledge. I mean, if you guys know out there, then send us a comment, let us know, fill in the gaps. But to my knowledge, no one ever fully explains it. I mean, you could assume that it's because Tidus is based off him, or he's a long-lost descendant of him, or something like that.
Right.
But no, it's never explicitly stated in the game.
Yeah, that's odd. It just kind of happens, I guess.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in the plot that, again, seem like the writing is a little contrived, or they just need the direction to move in a certain place.
Right.
So, like, where Shuyin decides to end all wars, that's where the game gets serious and it loses the lighter tone and things get heavier. And that's cool, it takes that turn. I mean, there are good points, but at certain parts of it, I'm not a big fan of, like, Shuyin just looks like Tidus, and Shuyin is gonna use Vegna Gun to wipe out all life as opposed to, you know, just wipe out certain targets that are the ones that are primarily responsible for causing the war, something like that.
Right.
Maybe there's a method to his madness that makes a little bit more sense. If there's some master plan where everyone can live together in harmony on the far plane, then I'm not aware of it.
Just
But
like the faith said.
I mean, I'm sure he wants to be reunited with Len. But, you know, destroying all life.
Right.
War is horrible. Many people die. Thousands of lives lost as casualties. Depending on the war, it's like hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Or millions, but not all.
Yeah.
All is greater than lots.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Some of the writing is a little bit more naive in that you're trying to convince, hey, everybody, we got to leave the past behind us and just move on and function as one and not constantly create a new fight between everyone, that sort of thing.
Right.
But the groups have different opinions and no, we can't do that. Come on, our views are important. You know, just kind of like what people would do in real reality.
Yeah.
We're not just going to agree with that even if it does make sense.
Right.
So Yuna at one point puts on a concert.
Watch what you say.
And because one of the spheres that you find that changes your class or whatnot is for a songstress job.
Of course it is.
Right. So, well, a singer and bard basically has been a job class in the games for a long time. It's just a more modern take on it.
Okay.
But, so yeah, one of them is a songstress, and she gives a concert to try and explain to the world, okay, everyone, we have to get along and stop the fighting, and it works. That's the weird part. I mean, that's not how reality works.
That's how world peace is created by a U2 concert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. U2 has been trying that for decades. Bono, he's an activist.
Yeah.
He wants to bring peace to the world through, you know,
through song, music,
political intervention and through music. He's
yeah.
tried everything, but people don't work like that in real life.
Yeah, that's
Some people stick to their convictions because they believe them to be right no matter what, and other people, even if they kind of find out that they're wrong and start to see the other person's point of view, they won't do it out of sheer like pig-headedness and like, no, I'm still gonna side by people in the real world. They don't just
give up,
sing a song and do a dance and are happy.
Everything that they hold dear can be thrown away because that they just love the new song that's out right now.
Yeah, so the silly concert of happy harmony, I mean, that's great, it worked in Bill and Ted, but in the real world...
Yeah, I don't see that going very far.
Yeah, so even though the story does get serious, like, part of the writing is definitely more naive. And, I mean, there are parts of 10 that aren't, you know, perfect,
right?
But still, like, this is a different kind of level.
Yeah, I mean, based on just the idea of a concert that saves all of humanity and brings world peace. Yeah, I don't know. Something about that just doesn't seem on par with people summoning things to sacrifice themselves to save humanity. So,
but of course, there does come this epic struggle at the end, and when the crap hits the fan, there are a lot of serious things going on, and so a lot of people still do like 10-2. There was definitely this controversial split where a lot of the fan base was like, no, I absolutely hate this, is the worst. How could you possibly insult Yuna like this, or all the characters of 10? How could you do this to them? And other people were like, no, after you play the game, it's pretty good. Or a lot of people are kind of, well, the story is ass, but the gameplay is fun as hell.
Yeah.
So they have that going for them. But yeah, it's definitely controversial. But then they decide to go for broke and get even more crazy. They released this novel, which is called Final Fantasy X 2.5.
Oh, wow.
The Price of Eternity. So, this one, there's less controversy about. I have not really heard... I mean, there's a couple outliers, but I have not heard very many people who like this. This is almost universally despised. This story starts out with, like, immediately after the end of 10-2, Yuna and Tidus are happily reunited on a beach. If you get, like, the best possible ending sort of thing.
Okay.
They're happily reunited at Besaid, and immediately after this, they, like, go into a boat, and then there's a weird storm, and they get lost at sea, and they wind up on a weird island, and it looks like Besaid, but they don't recognize anyone or anything, and no one's around, and there's no village where Besaid Village is supposed to be, and Tidus finds what he thinks is a blitzball on the beach, and he's like, oh cool, a blitzball! But it's a bomb.
What the heck?
And it blows up and he dies. This is the story.
That is amazing. Oh my god.
Like, it would be hard to write fan fiction this bad. Like, this is the level where it's like a parody of fan fiction.
Was that the end of the...
No, that's not the end.
Okay.
That's near the beginning.
Okay.
That's like part of the premise.
Okay. I was like, I would love if the last page was, and then he kicked it, and he exploded. And it's like,
the end.
Finn. that would really make my day, because that's just like, put it right in your face. Oh, man.
Oh my god. So he thinks it's a blitzball.
Wow.
It's not a blitzball. It is, in fact, a bomb.
And that's it. That's it for Tidus.
And Tidus dies.
Sweet.
And then Yuna starts meeting these ancient people who are from before the time of Yevon's founding. They start to explain how the gods were worshipped before Yevon came into existence and what kind of gods there were back then and that sort of thing. And there she learns about what's called the beckoning. And beckoning is different from summoning. Beckoning allows a summoner to actually bring someone who has died back from the dead.
Right.
So the whole concept of this blitzball bomb thing was because they wanted Tidus dead immediately so that they could introduce this beckoning concept immediately. Like, it's so badly done. It could have been done okay if this was a sequel to a sequel, where there was this epic, amazing follow-up and Tidus sacrificed himself and died at the end or something like that.
Right.
And then they bring on this beckoning concept. And it still would have seemed cheesy, like, oh, they just want to bring him back. But at least it would have been better than,
Tidus is on a beach. He sees a round object. It's a bomb. He's dead. Like, what?
So, yeah, this is obviously the most contrived writing that has ever been.
That is insane. Yeah, that would be a great, like, you, at the end of, like, I guess it would be 10 because 10-2 didn't have Tidus in it. If Tidus died at the very end of 10 and then you don't know until 2.5 that, okay, you can bring back Tidus. Like, that would be great. I mean, it's still like, okay, you want to bring him back just for the sake of he's a popular character and everyone wants him back. But sure, yeah, I mean, you could do that. It's had ample time, but just say, you know what? He's just going to get demolished immediately right out of the gate by a bomb of all things.
Yeah.
And then that's gotta be the best way to kill off a main character I've ever heard. And by best, I mean funniest and obviously the worst.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
So yeah, they did it purely to introduce this concept of the beckoning.
Right.
And so Yuna beckons accidentally, like she passes out from the pure shock, and then learns about beckoning and all this from these wizened people, and Titus actually wakes her up, so he's been beckoned back.
Oh.
I don't remember if it was by like the wise people or by her just wanting it to be so, that sort of thing. So beckoning now exists. The catch with beckoning is if the beckoned individual learns that they are beckoned, they once again fade away into fireflies.
Oh.
So it's not 100% permanent kind of situation.
Okay.
So that was basically the setup there. They eventually make it back to their own time with that
was a
new,
good
or
fight.
their own. I don't know if they were in the past or in an alternate kind of summoned reality.
Right,
But
right.
they make it back to their own Besaid Island, and now that's their new kind of situation that they have to deal with.
Oh. Wow. I can definitely see why that's not as polarizing.
Yeah, there's a little bit more to it than that.
Right,
Where
yeah.
they meet a couple of the old gods who were disguised as beckoned beings, and so she learns. That's how she learns how it works. Where one of them learns of the situation and fades out or disappears, and there's a little bit of give and take between some of the beckoned characters, but that's how it mostly comes into play to affect Yuna and Titus. Is here's how beckoning works. Now Titus is beckoned. We instantly killed him, so he would be in this new difficult scenario, and now you have to deal with it. And so then after that, nothing really happened for a little bit until the remaster for Final Fantasy X came out. And once that happened, they actually made an audio drama to go with it. It wasn't actually a CG scene or anything like that. It was pure audio.
Oh, wow.
But it continues after this novel of Final Fantasy X 2.5.
Okay.
Which is already, you're getting into Kingdom Hearts levels of naming weirdness almost here. Kingdom Hearts 2.8, final chapter prologue. Come on, guys. Seriously, come on. Anyway, so yeah, then you get into this audio drama where Yuna and Titus are living far apart at the moment. Yuna's gone back to her kind of more reserved summoner attire and that sort of thing, and Yuna lives in Besaid, and Titus is currently in Bevelle, the old capital of Yevon, and the main event to happen in this audio drama is that they see more entities have been beckoned into existence, and she's starting to worry how that's going to impact things. Specifically, a shoe pup. I don't know if I should really. you don't even know what a shoe pup is. This one creature that was an endangered species, where only one of it was left alive in the world.
Oh, okay.
And now suddenly a second one has entered into existence.
Huh,
and
okay.
Yuna knows the only way that could have possibly happened is through a beckoning.
Right.
And most of the population of Spira doesn't know that that even exists as a thing.
Right.
Because that was prior to the teachings of Yevon. So this is old school knowledge that she has.
Right, right.
So now she's like, uh-oh, what does this mean for the future? And then after that, she learns that Sin itself has been brought back.
Oh, wow.
So Sin has been beckoned back into reality. So that's, now you see why they introduced beckoning. So that they could introduce this concept of a difficult problem for Titus to have to face, and also at the same time bring back the threat of Sin.
Right.
But the way that they've done it is so ridiculous that it's just almost nearly universally hated. And yeah, there's an interesting thing there, but I mean, if the big monster at the end of theoretically made a Final Fantasy X-3, which they have talked about making, is just Sin again, it's like, well, that's not that big of a deal, guys.
And this is a beckon Sin, so you could just tell Sin that he was beckoned.
Well, Sin is kind of bestial.
I guess, yeah.
So I'm not sure that that would work. So yeah, I don't know if Sin could read.
Yeah.
You could just say, put up a sign.
Yeah. Sin, beckoned.
And
It
Sin,
just fades away.
so hopefully there would be, the final boss would be whoever's been beckoning and manipulating people.
Yeah.
But even so, like, just bringing Sin back diminishes all of the sacrifice of 10, which was the original game that had, you know, the good writing in it in the first place.
Yeah, right.
And all the struggle Spira has faced.
Everything that they built for that, yeah. All that sacrifice that was done, everything is basically for naught.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see how that would be frustrating for sure.
Yeah, it just... And especially, if they did it expertly, maybe they could make it work, but...
Right.
The way, I mean, bomb on the beach and explodes and Titus dies, just so we can get him into this dead state as fast as cheaply as possible.
Right.
It's like, come on,
Yeah.
put some effort into it. This seriously seems like not even bad fan fiction. It seems like someone comedically making fun of bad fan fiction and doing a parody of over-the-top bad fan fiction. That's how bad it is. So hopefully they'll change their minds, because there was a massive negative reaction to
Right.
that audio drama.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully they actually can admit, okay, people didn't like it, let's change. But Square doesn't seem to necessarily always be on the same page as their fans, so I'm fearing the worst, and we'll get Final Fantasy X-3 with weird Beckon Tidus and Beckinson and Beckon the whole world, and everything will be stupid.
Yeah, that seems like it's gonna be interesting to see, and I feel like if it's been that long of a time frame between 2.5 and 3, they should have a lot of time to kind of perfect this story that they're trying to build around here. So I don't know. I guess if it comes out, we'll have to see how that turns out. But I don't know how they're gonna pull that off and make it actually sound like a true good story.
Yeah, with that premise, I don't think it's
Yeah.
even possible. They would seriously have to listen to their fans and scrap the premise if they want to go back to making a 10-3.
Yeah, or if they do, they just basically have to scrap 2.5 if they want to keep that. Yeah.
They have to scrap 2.5
Yeah.
and start over from there. But I don't think so, because they were happy with the concept that they already had like a working plot for the whole game. So
Well,
I hope that they actually have the capacity to listen to fans.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure it was universally despised through Japan and abroad. So globally,
yeah. I am just looking forward to seeing what comes out of this. I mean, for me, I guess I never played 10, so I don't have that like emotional investment in it, which I'm sure a lot of fans will. And so, like, if this is my favorite game and then the creators like did this to that, I would be furious. So I can only imagine how the fans are taking this right now.
yeah, I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. I mean, as an outsider, it's like, wow, that story sounds like terrible. Like, as a way to transfer that into okay, Sin is back again, and Tidus is back, and now he could potentially fade away forever.
Yeah, talk about the world's smoothest possible transition.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of need Tidus dead for the next part of the story. Well, okay. How about a bomb?
Yeah.
I mean, bombs happen in real world.
Bomb kill people all the time.
Yeah, bombs are pretty deadly.
Yeah. And you know how popular they are on the beach. Just sitting there, waiting to be kicked.
Ancient landmines.
Yeah.
Back to the Claymore.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's still stories of people dying from or being exploded from like World War II mines that are still active.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean,
Not too many people confusing them with basketballs. But
yeah, I mean, you know, I'm sure there's one story out there that as soon as they saw it, you know what, this would be perfect for Tidus.
So that's going to cover it for Yuna's gameplay and her backstory, her legitimate backstory. Also, this crazy
Yeah.
new book.
Yeah. With the extension of what was her legitimate backstory.
Yeah, it's so funny that it's called The Price of Eternity. Like, if we keep drawing out this series forever, the price is they have sold their soul for a profit. The quality of the work has gone totally in the shitter, but they will get money for this.
It's a euphemism, I guess, for their reality. But anyway, yeah, that's going to do it for this episode with Yuna and this DLC. So once again, as usual, we will see you guys in the next DLC for whoever they decide to drop next. And we'll be doing, like we always do, covering their gameplay, backstory, the whole nine. So we'll see you guys in that one.
We'll see you guys next time.